All right, thank you so much for coming out. We had a massive amount of RSVPs, so thank you for being the people that RSVP and do come along. It's really, really great to see all of you here. We have a very special guest with us all the way from Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. And he is a MedHat, he's a Microsoft MVP and runs the .NET user group in Vancouver, I believe.
Yes, I do.
And is here visiting his son for his son's wedding and kindly has offered to speak to us as well. There you go. You've already got one thanks.
Okay, thank you.
So
You're welcome.
It's a hot topic, MCP. It was talked about a lot at Build, and the MCP C# SDK has come out from Anthropic and Microsoft, and so it's a very timely topic. There is a workshop, so I won't labour any of the other usual things. I guess I do want to just thank Versant, aka Telstra Purple, aka Telstra, as our venue host every month, and also our kind pizza and drink sponsor almost every month. So if we can just give a quick round of applause for Versant. Without further ado, I'll introduce MedHat. Make him feel very welcome.
Thank you. And thanks for coming. I want to go and see this spot. They say it's up the hill somewhere around Brisbane. Beautiful view, it seems. So it's going to be on my bucket list to go up there and have a look. Today's topic is mostly practical. I have about 15 slides, and I'm going to go through them pretty quickly, I hope, and leave some time for questions. But I think the bulk of the time is to burn your fingers, try it out, because this is an important topic. And it could be a game changer. Of course, we always feel that something is happening and things are going to change, but we don't know what the effects of this new thing is going to be. But I feel it is something we must learn and get to know about. So it is MCP. About myself. First of all, greetings from Vancouver, Canada to Brisbane. And my major job is that I'm an instructor in Vancouver in a college called the BCIT, which is the BC Institute of Technology. And I also do contract work there. I'm a Microsoft MVP since 2017. And I founded the local user group there, just like this one here, and I looked at the numbers. We have very similar number of members, 2,000, over the 2,000 mark. I'm also a speaker at some of the Microsoft conferences. I blog at this URL, and you can get me on this email address. I don't do Facebook, I don't do X, but I'm on LinkedIn too. So let's talk about MCP, Model Context Protocol. So without looking at the slide much, let us just break it down. Model Context Protocol. Model. Here we're talking about the AI models, the GPTs, the Claudes, the Llamas, and so on and so forth. And context, what is that? Well, we want to give context to these models. Like, we've seen how these models are grounded. And they're grounded by putting like a prompt saying, you are an assistant who knows a lot about baking. This is the way that we've been grounding it so far. But with MCP, you ground it even further. And that's where the context is provided. You provide a context to the model. And the last thing is protocol. Protocols are pretty cool. I mean, think about HTTP, it's a protocol. FTP, it's a protocol. And what's a protocol? It's just a set of rules. And they're typically very simple rules that if you follow those rules, a lot of things can happen. So this is a new protocol. So the Model Context Protocol is an open standard developed by Anthropic. Anthropic is one of these major players in the AI world. They developed this standard, and now it's being embraced by many organizations. And we're here mostly because we're interested in Microsoft technologies. And in the last Build conference, they were just talking about agentic web, agentic AI. This is the backbone for all the stuff that they're talking about. So Anthropic is the company behind Claude AI models. If you haven't worked with the Claude AI models in Visual Studio Code or in Visual Studio itself, it is just another one of these models like the GPT-4, GPT-4 Mini, and so on and so forth. But the interesting thing is that if you want to do, at this time, if you want to do MCP, you're better off using Claude. Okay, MCP is an open protocol that enables seamless integration between AI apps and agents and your tools and data sources or your resources out there. Example, you have a database, your own company database. You can create an MCP server that knows everything about your company through the database, because the corporate database is this one point of knowledge that pretty much knows everything about the company. So imagine you build an MCP server that its context is your database, and you can query it with natural language. This is the opportunity that we're looking at here. So MCP standardizes how AI applications interact with external systems, your prompts, your tools, and your resources. This here is the context that we're talking about. You can create an MCP server that is dedicated to interacting with databases. You can have another MCP server that interacts with your CRMs, your customer relationship management systems. You can have another MCP server that interacts with your version control. And the potential here again is natural language queries. You can, for example, interact with GitHub. And we're going to do that as one of the exercises. You can connect it to your GitHub repo and ask it, how many issues are outstanding in this GitHub repo? It will tell you, these are the outstanding issues. Can you fix, or can you complete this particular issue? Can you do it? Yes, I can do it. Go ahead and do it. It can bring down your issue, work on it, push it to a new branch. It can issue a pull request, approve the pull request, and then merge it to the main branch. It can do all of this stuff for you if you use the right MCP server. What is it for different people? For the AI application developers, which is most of us, I am one of those, you can connect your app to any MCP server with zero additional work. Let's talk about the GitHub MCP server. It's already there. You can use it and do all this magic stuff with GitHub. For the tool or API developers, in other words, the people who develop, let's say, Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, and all these other IDEs, you can get some of these MCP servers to make your IDE work faster. Give you an example. There is an MCP server that allows the IDE to talk to the operating system. You can tell the operating system, find me the largest file on my operating system and delete it for me, or something like that, or show me what are the largest documents that I have. They're taking up too much disk space. It'll go and do it for you, because there is an MCP server that does that. For end users, you can have context-rich AI applications. For enterprises, you can have a clear separation of concerns between AI teams, project teams. For example, you can have an AI team in a company that dedicates itself to commissions, another one that dedicates itself to human resources, and so on. And they're delineated, and these agents can talk together. So at this moment, there are many, many MCP servers that are available, thousands of them. Even though it's early days, there are thousands of them. There are applications from IDEs that have been developed. There are people who have built just servers. Enterprises are using them. There are a lot of open source contributions and many more. At the moment, the place that has a lot of these MCP servers is a GitHub repo, github.com model context protocol/servers. If you want to get to the site, just Google model context protocol servers. I can scroll on and on and on and on. These are different servers that have been developed by different people. And I will mention later on that one of the problems with the MCP business is that we don't have one place where we can find this. There must be a better way of doing this. There is a need now for these MCP servers to become discoverable. And hopefully, in the future, this is one of the things that Anthropic are working on, that they're going to come up with some sort of a way of discovering them in a more sort of standard way. But at the moment, this is one, and there are others as well. So MCP will be the foundational protocol for agents, most likely. There is another similar protocol developed by Google, but I think this one is probably taking over. The process is this. You make a request to the large language model or the small language model, whichever you're using, and this small language model, typically it can do queries. Say, in this case, it can make a query against a vector database, for example, and retrieve data. This is where it's using the context model protocol to reference tools. And you will see later on that the MCP is nothing but tools that you develop and you link to an MCP server. So it will check your tools. If there are any tools, it's going to come back and respond. And it can also use your memory to remember the last request that was made and whether you want anything improved on that and so on and so forth, and it will give you back the response. These MCP servers, they can also be clients. So you can have a chaining system here where you make a request to an MCP server, and then it takes the role of a client and makes another request to another MCP server, takes the role of a client, sends another request to the server, comes back. And so a server and a client, they can interreplace themselves. At the moment, the SDKs that are available for MCP are in these languages: C#, Java, Kotlin, Python, and TypeScript. As far as .NET is concerned, there are just two packages that you can work with that are available: Model Context Protocol, and then if you're doing ASP.NET, you have this Model Context Protocol.ASP.NET Core, and at the moment, both of them are in preview. So you can expect that it is fast changing, because if you develop an app with a particular version of these packages, and then tomorrow you download the latest version of the package, don't be surprised if your app doesn't work anymore. You have to find out what are the changes. It is worth taking note here of what is the difference between MCP and RAG. RAG, it's an acronym for Retrieval Augmented Generation. And we've been learning about this stuff in the past, where you sort of allow this model to know about your data. And in most cases, it's about documents. So the difference between MCP and RAG, in my opinion, is this. RAG is limited to text. It allows you to do semantic search. And typically, the text is loaded into a vector database and queried by the model. MCP is different. It's a protocol for connecting a tool with any external resource, whether it's a database, a repository, or an API, or whatever that is. And not only does it retrieve the data, it can take action on the data. In order to do RAG, you have to clean up the data, you have to chunk the data, you have to put it in a vector database, and so on and so forth. So there's a bit of work that needs to be done here. Whereas when it comes to MCP, you just have to configure the server in a specific JSON file, because there's a JSON format that you need to deal with. And the client judges whether or not to contact an MCP server. It makes the decision on its own, and it's based on this client-server model. So there's a difference. Also, another difference is with RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, it dictates how to solve the problem, how to respond to you. Whereas down with MCP, nothing is dictated by the MCP. The decisions are made on the fly using the AI. What is next for MCP? Some of the holes that are not filled yet. Number one is the authentication piece hasn't been yet built, and they're working on it. Not only are the folks at Anthropic working on it, other players like Microsoft, they're sort of contributing towards this solution because they want a solution too. So this is still early days, but you can expect that they're going to crack it out. And the other problem is what we just mentioned before. We don't have one place where we can find all of these services. It would be nice that there be one registry. So the other thing they're working on is an official MCP registry or an API that helps you find what you're looking for, other than going to a GitHub repo or a Docker repo or something like that. Okay, where are we? Now this is my concept of what's going on here, what to expect in the future. We hear a lot about this agentic AI. and agentic AI are these agents talking together using the MCP protocol. I think we are in this phase in the technology. The next phase is what they refer to as twin AI. What is twin AI? Twin AI is, once you really have a handle on agents, every company is going to have an AI that is a shadow or a duplicate of the business process that they have. The best example I can give you is Vancouver International Airport. They have done a twin AI, and they're the first in North America to do it. I don't know if it's been done in any other part of the world. What they did was they installed tens of thousands of detectors and sensors around the airport. And the purpose of that is to twin the processes that are being done in the airport so that the AI knows what the business of an airport is. And what's the business of an airport? The business of the airport is to allow passengers to check in, to deposit their luggage. Luggage goes on a conveyor belt takes the luggage somewhere, gets loaded on the truck takes that luggage, puts it on an airplane, and it flies. Okay, that's the business. Or it also receives passengers through the passport control and all that stuff. So what do these sensors do? Well, they have sensors at the check-in desks. So if there is a passenger that has arrived at a check-in desk and there's nobody to serve that passenger, these sensors, they find the airline. That how is it possible that there's a passenger at the desk and nobody's there to serve them? And they notify the airline that you should send somebody there to receive or to serve that customer. They do other things. For example, if there is a bag that is at the end of the conveyor belt and there's a truck that's supposed to take it, the sensor will detect that and notify the truck driver to come, this sort of thing. So what they have done is they've twinned the business processes of the airline. And every company is going to do that. So you can expect that we as developers, there's going to be a lot of work here. The third big phase that we're going to experience, and I say in the next 5 years, 6 years, is the growth of quantum computing. Quantum computing is going to make AI run much faster. And it's going to allow AI to do a lot of things. This is something that I expect in the next 5 years or so, where it's going to really surface. Who knows what's going to go next? But this is, to me, something we can expect in the not too distant future. We're going to go into the practical phase now. I want you to wet your fingers by going through 5 tutorials at this site. So if you go to method.ca/mcp.html, there are 5 tutorials there. Go through them in sequence. And these are the 5 tutorials. The first one is just getting started, to get to know how this thing works. The second one is to download an image from Docker Hub that happens to be the Northwind database SQL Server image. And then it will show you how to create an MCP server that allows you to use natural language to query the SQL Server database. Ask it, how many suppliers are there? Which suppliers sell this product? And so on and so forth. Whichever language you want to use, it will answer your questions through natural language. Imagine giving this to your boss, telling your boss, just query the database with whichever questions that you have, and it's going to give you the results. The third tutorial is using your GitHub repo and the GitHub MCP server to solve issues, create pull requests, push the code, and so on and so forth. It'll just do it for you. Sometimes it takes 5 or 10 minutes, but it does it for you. And then number 4 is a tutorial where you can create a server and then you can create a simple command line application to be the client, because I want you to note that in tutorials 1, 2, and 3, the client is VS Code. In this tutorial, you can create your own client that is not VS Code. It could be a command line application, a website, whatever you want. And then finally, you can go through tutorial number 5, where you can create this MCP server that is remote, because in all of these, the MCP servers are local. And there with the number 5, you can deploy it and it becomes a remote MCP server. So I'm saying here, ask others or myself if you're stuck, and we will get through any bumps together. Are there any questions? Okay, so I'm going to leave you just to try it out. Okay, and then try to help each other if anybody's stuck, but of course you can call me at any time. And I'm going to say at this stage, thank you.